Hey there, wonderful people. Before we dive into today's incredible story, make sure to comment where you're watching from today. What you're about to witness is a moment that reminds us all about the true meaning of respect, humility, and standing up for what's right. On a sunny afternoon in Beverly Hills, a group of privileged teenagers would learn an unforgettable lesson from someone they never expected to encounter. The day started like any other on the glamorous streets of Los Angeles, where the line between wealth and humility often blurs, but no one could have predicted how a simple act of cruelty would lead to a moment that would change lives forever. Miguel Santos had been operating his street vendor cart for over 20 years, serving hot dogs and cold drinks to everyone from tourists to business executives. His weathered hands and gentle smile told stories of countless hours under the California sun, working tirelessly to provide for his family and put his grandson Daniel through college. But today, his usual spot near the high-end shopping district would become the stage for an extraordinary encounter. Brandon Taylor and his friends weren't just any group of teenagers, they were the elite of Beverly Hills High, driving luxury cars their parents had gifted them for their sweet 16s, wearing designer clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. They had everything money could buy, except perhaps the one thing that mattered most: compassion. As fate would have it, a familiar face was about to cross paths with this scene of brewing conflict. Just a few blocks away, Jason Statham was enjoying a rare moment of solitude, taking a casual stroll after finishing a meeting about his upcoming film. Known for his tough guy roles on screen, few knew of his genuine heart of gold and his deep-rooted respect for hardworking people from all walks of life. The air was thick with tension as Brandon's convertible Porsche screeched to a halt near Miguel's cart. Chelsea Roberts, his girlfriend, was already reaching for her phone, ready to document whatever drama was about to unfold for her social media followers. Tyler Davidson and Amber Pierce flanked them like loyal courtiers, their designer sunglasses masking any hint of conscience in their eyes. What these teenagers didn't realize was that their actions in the next few minutes would not only reveal their true characters but would also attract the attention of someone who had fought his way up from humble beginnings to international stardom. Someone who never forgot the value of hard work and respect. Someone who was about to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. The story of what happened next spread across social media like wildfire, garnering millions of views and sparking conversations about privilege, respect, and the true measure of a person's worth. But before we reveal how this encounter unfolded, take a moment to think about times you've witnessed injustice. Would you have had the courage to stand up? Would you have done what Jason Statham did? As our story continues to unfold, you'll witness how a simple act of kindness can create ripples that touch countless lives. You'll see how a Hollywood action star proved that his toughest role wasn't on the silver screen, but in standing up for what's right in real life. And most importantly, you'll learn why judging someone based on their appearance or occupation can lead to the most embarrassing moment of your life. Some say that character is what you do when you think no one is watching. But on this day, everyone was watching. The events that followed would not only go viral but would also teach a powerful lesson about humanity, humility, and the true meaning of respect. A lesson that would make these teenagers question everything they thought they knew about status and worth. Brandon Taylor had no idea that his attempt to humiliate a hardworking street vendor would backfire in the most spectacular way. He couldn't have known that his actions would catch the attention of not just any passerby, but someone who had built their career on standing up against bullies, both on and off the screen. Someone who was about to turn this ordinary afternoon into a moment these teens would never forget. The sun continued to beat down on the Beverly Hills sidewalk, the expensive shops lining the streets serving as silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. Miguel Santos stood behind his cart, his dignity intact despite what was coming his way, unaware that he was about to become the center of a story that would inspire millions. Little did Brandon and his friends know that their privileged bubble was about to burst, and the person who would burst it wasn't just any ordinary observer. They were about to learn that true character isn't measured by the price tag on your clothes or the car you drive, but by how you treat those around you, especially those you think can't fight back. As we continue with this incredible story, remember that sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the most unexpected sources. And sometimes, karma has a way of delivering its message through the most unlikely of messengers. In this case, That messenger happened to be one of Hollywood's most beloved action stars. Stay tuned as we reveal exactly what happened when these entitled teens crossed paths with Jason Statham, and how their attempt to humiliate a hardworking street vendor led to a moment of reckoning they never saw coming. This is a story about more than just standing up to bullies. It's about dignity, respect, and the reminder that every person, regardless of their occupation or status, deserves to be treated with basic human decency. But before we move on to what happened next, take a moment to think about this. Have you ever witnessed someone being mistreated because of their job or social status? What did you do? What would you have done if you were in Jason Statham's shoes that day? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this important conversation about respect, privilege, and the courage to stand up for what's right. The events you're about to witness serve as a powerful reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear simple clothes and carry themselves with quiet dignity, and sometimes they're famous action stars who haven't forgotten their humble beginnings. This is the story of how Jason Statham turned an ordinary afternoon into an extraordinary lesson about humanity, proving that sometimes the most powerful scenes don't happen on movie sets, but right on our streets. Are you ready to see how this unfolds? Are you prepared to witness how a group of entitled teenagers learned one of life's most important lessons from someone they least expected? Then stay with us, because this story is about to take a turn that no one saw coming, except perhaps those who know that true character always reveals itself in how we treat others, especially those we think can't fight back. What happened next would not only change the lives of everyone involved but would also remind us all that in a world where you can be anything, being kind is always the right choice. And sometimes, it takes a Hollywood action star to deliver that message in a way that no one can ignore. The intersection of Rodeo Drive and Beverly Boulevard was more than just a meeting point of two streets, it was where two worlds collided. On one side stood the gleaming storefronts of luxury brands, their windows displaying items worth more than what most people earn in months. On the other, Miguel Santos's modest hot dog cart, its polished steel surface reflecting the California sunlight, a testament to the pride he took in his work despite its simplicity. Miguel had chosen this spot carefully 15 years ago, understanding that even the wealthy occasionally craved the simple pleasure of a well-made street hot dog. His cart, though basic, was immaculate, the result of hours spent cleaning and preparing each morning before the sun rose. The aroma of grilled onions and perfectly seasoned meat had become as much a part of the street's character as the designer perfumes wafting from nearby boutiques. The day had started normally enough. Miguel had arrived at 5 in the morning, setting up his cart with the precision of a master craftsman. His grandson Daniel had helped him prep the ingredients before heading to his morning classes at the local community college. The morning rush had brought its usual mix of business people and tourists, all treated with the same warm smile and respectful service that had made Miguel a beloved fixture of the neighborhood. Just across the street, Jason Statham had finished a meeting about his upcoming action film at one of the upscale hotels. He'd chosen to walk rather than call his driver, enjoying the rare opportunity to stretch his legs and observe the city he'd come to call home. Despite his fame and success, Statham had never forgotten his own humble beginnings as a street trader in London, selling fake perfume and jewelry from a suitcase. It was perhaps this shared experience that made him particularly attuned to the dignity of street vendors like Miguel. The peaceful afternoon atmosphere was about to be shattered by the arrival of Brandon Taylor and his entourage. Their presence was announced before they were even visible. The aggressive purr of Brandon's Porsche 911 GT3, a recent gift for his 17th birthday, echoed off the buildings. Chelsea Roberts sat in the passenger seat, one hand casually draped over the door, her other hand clutching the latest iPhone Pro, ready to document whatever drama might unfold for her 100,000 Instagram followers. Tyler Davidson and Amber Pierce followed in Tyler's equally impressive Mercedes-AMG, their designer clothes and accessories creating a walking billboard of wealth and privilege. These teens weren't just rich, they were Beverly Hills rich, raised in an environment where price tags were merely suggestions and consequences were things that happened to other people. The group's arrival at this particular corner wasn't random. They had been filming what they called social experiments for their social media channels, elaborate pranks that often teetered on the edge of harassment, particularly targeting those they deemed beneath their social status. Their previous videos, showing them mocking service workers and creating chaos in high-end stores, had gained them a significant following among certain circles of privileged youth. Miguel noticed their arrival but continued his work with dignity, serving a customer with the same genuine smile he offered everyone. He'd seen their type before, young people who mistook wealth for worth. In his 2 decades of street vending, he'd learned that the best response to potential trouble was to maintain his composure and focus on his work. Jason Statham, now just a block away, had paused to sign an autograph for a fan when he first noticed the teens' arrival. Something about their demeanor, the predatory way they moved, phones raised like weapons, caught his attention. Years of playing action heroes had given him a sixth sense for brewing trouble, and everything about this scene set off warning bells. Officer Sarah Martinez, who regularly patrolled this beat, was also nearby, having just finished her coffee break at the corner cafe. She'd had previous run-ins with Brandon and his friends, but their parents' connections had always seemed to make any serious consequences disappear. Still, she kept a watchful eye on the situation, her years of experience telling her that something was about to happen. The air seemed to thicken with tension as Brandon and his friends positioned themselves around Miguel's cart, their body language suggesting that whatever was about to unfold had been planned in advance. Chelsea adjusted her camera angle, ensuring she would capture everything. Tyler and Amber spread out to block potential escape routes, their practiced movements suggesting this wasn't their first time orchestrating such a scene. What none of them had noticed was how the usual street traffic had begun to slow and gather. Something about the scene, the contrast between Miguel's dignified presence and the teens' predatory circling, had caught the attention of passers-by. Phones were being pulled out, but not just by the teens' followers. Other witnesses were preparing to document whatever was about to unfold. Jason Statham had now moved closer, his trained eye taking in every detail of the situation. His public persona as an action hero often overshadowed his real-life experience in dealing with street-level confrontations. He'd learned long ago that true strength wasn't about throwing punches, it was about standing up for what's right, especially when others wouldn't. The temperature seemed to rise a few degrees as Brandon stepped forward, his expensive shoes deliberately scuffing the clean pavement in front of Miguel's cart. The smile never left Miguel's face, but decades of life experience had taught him to recognize when trouble was brewing. His weathered hands continued their work, preparing hot dogs with the same care he always showed, even as he sensed the impending confrontation. Chelsea's perfectly manicured fingers adjusted her phone settings, ensuring the lighting was perfect for what they planned to make their most viral video yet. Amber and Tyler exchanged knowing looks, their expressions suggesting they were about to witness something they thought would be entertaining. The only sound for a moment was the sizzle of hot dogs on the grill and the soft murmur of gathering onlookers. What happened in the next few minutes would become one of the most viewed videos of the year, but not for the reasons Brandon and his friends had planned. The scene was set for what they thought would be another addition to their collection of viral pranks. Instead, it would become a moment that would teach them and thousands of others an unforgettable lesson about respect, dignity, and the true meaning of strength. The gathering crowd, the positioning of the teens, the quiet dignity of Miguel, and the approaching presence of Jason Statham, all these elements were about to collide in a way that would transform a potential act of cruelty into a powerful demonstration of justice. The stage was set for a confrontation that would remind everyone watching that sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with fists, but with character. Brandon Taylor's designer shoes scraped against the pavement as he approached Miguel's cart, his phone held high to capture what he thought would be his next viral moment. The afternoon sun caught the gleam of his expensive watch as he gestured to his friends to start recording. Chelsea Roberts positioned herself strategically, her camera already rolling, while Tyler Davidson and Amber Pierce formed a loose circle around the cart, effectively creating their own stage for the confrontation they had planned. "Hey, old man," Brandon called out, his voice carrying the unmistakable tone of someone who had never been told no in his life. "Do you even have a permit to be here? This is Beverly Hills, not some downtown street corner." The words dripped with condescension as Chelsea zoomed in on Miguel's face, expecting to capture a reaction that would entertain their followers. Miguel Santos continued his work with steady hands, his dignity unmoved by the attempt to provoke him. Years of experience had taught him that silence was often the strongest response to disrespect. He methodically wrapped a hot dog for a customer who was now hesitating to approach the cart, aware of the brewing confrontation. "Look at this," Chelsea chimed in, her voice pitched for her social media audience. "He's probably illegal anyway. Should we call immigration?" She laughed, the sound echoing off the storefronts as Tyler and Amber joined in, their collective mockery drawing more attention from passers-by. Brandon stepped closer, deliberately bumping the cart with his hip. "Hey, I'm talking to you. Don't you understand English?" The sound of his expensive watch clinked against the metal cart as he leaned forward, trying to force eye contact with Miguel. Just then, a figure emerged from the growing crowd of onlookers. Jason Statham had seen enough. His measured steps carried the weight of someone who knew exactly how to handle this situation. The teens, absorbed in their performance, hadn't noticed his approach. "The hot dogs here any good?" Statham's distinctive voice cut through the tension, causing Brandon and his friends to freeze mid-taunt. The actor's presence commanded attention without effort, his casual stance belying the purpose in his eyes. Miguel nodded respectfully. "Best in Beverly Hills, sir. How would you like it?" His voice remained steady, years of pride in his work evident in every word. Brandon's face flickered between shock and attempted recovery. You're Jason Statham?" His phone was now pointed at the actor, his previous target momentarily forgotten. Chelsea quickly adjusted her camera angle, realizing their planned video was taking an unexpected turn. "I am," Statham confirmed, his gaze steady. "And I'm curious, what makes you think it's acceptable to harass a man doing honest work?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implied judgment. The gathered crowd had grown larger, phones recording what was quickly becoming a different kind of viral moment. Tyler stepped forward, attempting to salvage the situation. "We were just having some fun, you know? It's for our social media." His weak justification faded under Statham's unwavering stare. "Fun?" Statham's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Let me tell you something about fun." He turned to face the growing audience, his next words measured and clear. "Before I was an actor, I worked the streets of London, selling whatever I could to make ends meet. Every honest job deserves respect." Brandon's arrogance began to crack as he realized their planned harassment had backfired spectacularly. Amber's phone had dropped to her side, her usual confidence replaced by visible discomfort. Chelsea was still recording, but her hand had begun to shake slightly. "You know what I see here?" Statham continued, gesturing to Miguel's immaculate cart. "I see a man who gets up before dawn, prepares his business with pride, and serves everyone with respect, regardless of how they treat him." He paused, letting his words sink in. "And then I see 4 privileged kids who think it's entertaining to mock someone's livelihood." The crowd had grown even larger, with several people openly filming the confrontation. Officer Sarah Martinez had moved closer, ready to intervene if necessary, but content to let the scene play out as Statham delivered his lesson. "But we have millions of followers," Chelsea protested weakly, her social media status suddenly seeming insignificant in the face of real-world consequences. "And what exactly are you teaching them?" Statham asked, his voice cutting through her defense. "That it's okay to humiliate someone who's working hard to make an honest living? That having money gives you the right to treat people like they're beneath you?" Brandon's phone had dropped to his side, his planned video forgotten as the reality of their actions began to sink in. The crowd's murmurs had grown louder, with several voices expressing support for Statham's words. "Let me tell you what real success looks like," Statham continued, turning to Miguel. "It looks like this man, who maintains his dignity despite dealing with people who mistake wealth for worth. It looks like someone who takes pride in their work, no matter what that work is." Miguel stood straight behind his cart, his presence somehow larger now, fortified by Statham's words. The actor ordered 2 hot dogs, making a point to pay with a $100 bill and telling Miguel to keep the change. "But here's what's really sad," Statham addressed the teens again, his voice carrying to the entire crowd. "You thought you were making content that would impress people. Instead, you've shown everyone watching exactly who you are, and it's not a good look." Chelsea's carefully maintained composure had crumbled entirely. Tyler and Amber had backed away slightly, their phones now hidden away as if to distance themselves from their own actions. Brandon stood frozen, his expensive clothes and accessories suddenly seeming more like costumes than symbols of status. "The video you planned to make," Statham continued, "was going to show you mocking a hardworking man. Instead, you've created a different kind of viral moment, one that shows what happens when privilege meets reality." He took a bite of his hot dog, nodding appreciatively to Miguel. "And these are excellent, by the way." The crowd had begun to approach Miguel's cart, many making purchases in a show of support. Officer Martinez stepped forward finally, her presence adding official weight to the situation. "These young people have been warned about harassment before," she noted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Perhaps this time the lesson will stick." Brandon's face had reddened with shame as he realized their social media accounts were now flooding with comments. Not the admiring responses they usually received, but expressions of disgust at their behavior. The video was indeed going viral, but as a testament to their cruelty rather than their cleverness. "I suggest," Statham said, finishing his hot dog, "that you take this moment to learn something valuable. Success isn't about putting others down, it's about lifting people up. It's about recognizing that every honest job has dignity, and every person deserves respect." The teens stood in uncomfortable silence, their planned performance transformed into a public lesson in humility. The crowd continued to grow, with many people now approaching Miguel's cart not just for hot dogs, but to express their support and appreciation for his dignified response to the harassment. What had begun as an attempt to mock and humiliate had become a powerful demonstration of respect, dignity, and the true measure of character. The intersection of Rodeo Drive and Beverly Boulevard had become more than just a meeting point of streets. It had become the stage for a lesson that none of the participants would ever forget. The aftermath of Jason Statham's intervention would ripple through Beverly Hills and beyond, transforming what could have been a cruel viral video into a powerful lesson about respect, dignity, and the true meaning of success. The crowd that had gathered at the intersection of Rodeo Drive and Beverly Boulevard remained, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically from tension to celebration. Brandon Taylor's expensive shoes scuffed the pavement again, but this time as he shuffled forward toward Miguel's cart. His designer clothes no longer carried the same air of superiority. Instead, they seemed to hang heavily on his shoulders as he approached the man he had intended to humiliate just moments before. I'm sorry," Brandon managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. The words seemed to cost him more than any designer item he'd ever purchased. Chelsea Roberts, standing beside him, had tears streaking her perfectly applied makeup as she nodded in agreement, her phone now tucked away in her purse. Jason Statham watched the scene unfold, his presence ensuring that this apology wasn't just another performance for social media. "Sometimes," he said, addressing not just the teens but the entire crowd, "our worst moments can become our best teachers." The video of the confrontation was already spreading across social media platforms, but not in the way Brandon and his friends had planned. Instead of mockery, the clips showed Statham's powerful defense of dignity and hard work. Comments flooded in from around the world, with many sharing their own stories of facing discrimination and prejudice while doing honest work. Officer Sarah Martinez stepped forward, her notepad in hand. "I should be writing you up for harassment," she said to the teens, "but I think today's lesson might be more effective than any fine." She turned to Miguel, "Though if you want to press charges, that's your right." Miguel Santos stood behind his cart, his dignified presence somehow more commanding than before. "No," he said, his voice firm but kind. "I think these young people have learned something valuable today." He began preparing more hot dogs, his skilled hands never stopping their work even as he spoke. Sometimes mercy teaches better than punishment. Tyler Davidson and Amber Pierce had moved to help clean up some napkins that had blown across the sidewalk during the confrontation, their actions small but significant, a first step toward understanding the value of all work, no matter how humble. "You know," Statham said, accepting a second hot dog from Miguel, "I remember my first job in London, selling whatever I could on the street. It taught me something that all the money in Hollywood couldn't. Real respect isn't about what you have, it's about how you treat others." The crowd had begun to form a line at Miguel's cart, with many customers insisting on paying extra or refusing their change. Some shared stories of their own parents or grandparents who had worked similar jobs, their voices filled with pride rather than shame. Chelsea, her social media influencer persona stripped away, began to record again. But this time, she turned the camera on herself. "I've been teaching the wrong lessons to my followers," she admitted, her voice shaking but sincere. "Today, I learned what real influence should look like." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the street as Jason Statham prepared to leave, but not before ensuring his message would have a lasting impact. He turned to Brandon and his friends, his expression serious but not unkind. "Your platforms come with responsibility. Use them to lift people up, not tear them down." Miguel's grandson Daniel had arrived during the commotion, having received texts about what was happening. He stood proudly beside his grandfather's cart, watching as the teens who had intended to mock them now helped serve customers, their designer clothes collecting the same honest dirt and grease that his grandfather wore as badges of honor. "Your grandfather," Statham said to Daniel, loud enough for everyone to hear, "represents the best of what America is supposed to be about: hard work, dignity, and the strength to remain kind even in the face of cruelty." The story didn't end at that corner. In the days that followed, Brandon and his friends' social media channels transformed. Instead of prank videos targeting service workers, they began sharing stories of everyday heroes, the street vendors, custodians, and service workers who keep our cities running. Their followers watched in real time as privileged teens learned the value of respect and human dignity. Miguel's hot dog cart became a symbol of something larger than itself. Local business owners who had previously ignored the street vendor now stopped by regularly. Some even offered him indoor space during bad weather, recognizing that success comes in many forms. The video of Jason Statham's intervention went viral for all the right reasons, spawning countless discussions about privilege, respect, and the dignity of work. Comments sections filled with stories of similar encounters, but also with promises to do better, to be better, to recognize the humanity in every person regardless of their occupation. Brandon and his friends made one final video at Miguel's cart, but this time, they were behind it, learning to prepare hot dogs under his patient guidance. Their designer clothes got dirty, their expensive watches were tucked safely away, and for perhaps the first time in their lives, they experienced the satisfaction of honest work. Remember, Statham's words continued to echo across social media: "True character isn't about what you own or how you look. It's about how you treat others, especially those you think can't do anything for you." As the sun set on Beverly Hills that evening, Miguel Santos closed his cart as he had done for 20 years. But something had changed. The respect he had always shown others had been returned tenfold, not because a celebrity had defended him, but because his own dignity had shown others the true meaning of success. The story of the hot dog vendor and the action star became more than just another viral video. It became a lesson about humanity, respect, and the power of standing up for what's right. In a world increasingly divided by wealth and status, it served as a reminder that true character isn't found in the price of our clothes or the size of our followers' count, but in how we treat each other. If you found this story moving, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, every job has dignity, every person deserves respect, and sometimes the biggest heroes are the ones quietly doing honest work, day after day, with pride and dignity. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever stood up for someone being mistreated? Or has someone ever stood up for you? Your stories matter, and they remind us that change happens one person, one moment, one act of kindness at a time.